Hi guys, Alex here. As promised in the last video, today we're going to talk about the world's most popular primate, the gorilla. I have uploaded about gorillas before, but I took down the video due to it containing some outdated information. I will probably end up doing this a couple of times with some videos, because keeping my content up to date is very important. Anyway, here goes. Gorillas are the world's largest primates, as is common knowledge. The typical adult male, referred to as a silverback, is the same height as a human and weighs around 350 pounds, or 160 kilograms. Females are far smaller, usually under 5 feet tall and weighing up to 200 pounds. They are mainly terrestrial, climbing almost exclusively to eat and never crossing between trees. They use a specialized method of knuckle walking that is referred to as columnar, meaning their palm points straight backwards when their hands are planted. Gorillas are chiefly herbivores and get less than 1% of their energy from other animals. The mountain gorilla in particular has never been observed to eat any vertebrate prey at all. Let's get a closer look. Gorillas are powerfully built apes. Though not as muscular per unit mass as chimpanzees, they are more robustly built and more than twice the size. Allometric data suggests they have the shortest legs relative to body mass of any simian primate, though a great many may have shorter legs relative to body length. The skull of a gorilla is enormous and has a large sagittal crest, which in males is expanded to the rear to form a considerable occipital crest as well. These structures add mass to the temporalis muscle that closes the jaw. A gorilla's bite has been measured to be almost twice as strong as that of a lion's, and more than 6 times as strong as a human's. The hugely built jaws of gorillas are thought to present a limiting growth factor on the cranium. The molars of gorillas are large and wide, but have higher and sharper cusps than humans, with relatively thinner enamel. These teeth are mainly adapted for tough but not hard foods, such as fronds and pith. Hard foods can nonetheless be consumed by pushing the teeth rather hard, something that surprised many researchers. In contrast to humans and chimpanzees, which have a small colon, a gorilla's large pot belly houses a greatly expanded colon. This is to help them process an extremely high-fiber diet. Contrary to popular belief, the gorilla's herbivorous diet is actually very high in protein for most of the year, because though the vegetation is calorically poor, many of the calories it does have come from this type of macronutrient. In all great apes, fructose metabolism is altered by the absence of uricase, which causes the sugar to be converted fat almost immediately. This means that humans, orangutans, and gorillas all store fat quite quickly. Gorillas, because they could typically consume the least sugar of these 3 apes, remain the leanest of the 3. Though this uricase absence is present in chimpanzees as well, it doesn't seem to have a substantial of an effect, leaving chimpanzees as the leanest apes in general. An adult male gorilla is called a silverback, because in adulthood he develops a silvery saddle on his back and rear. Silverbacks are not a separate species, but may belong to the western or eastern species of gorilla. Of the two, the eastern gorilla is typically the larger. Gorilla hands are highly dexterous, thanks to a human-like thumb joint structure. One study showed that their ability to manipulate objects is second only to humans. A gorilla has some of the most complex arrangements of laryngeal muscles of any non-human mammal, and is the only great ape that is able to produce a roar. A reduced air sac in their throat amplifies their cries and the sound of them pounding their chests. Gorillas live in polygynous communities. This system is typically called a harem, though some people object to that terminology. In this system, there is an older, dominant silverback who monopolizes the females. He is often assisted by a juvenile male or two, usually his sons, in protecting the females from leopards and other male gorillas. Occasionally, multiple silverbacks do find themselves in the same group, but this is very rare in the wild. Female gorillas appear at least partly aware of their ovulation cycle, and usually only mate if they are ovulating, whereupon they are frequently the ones to initiate mating. Like lions or tigers, male gorillas often practice infanticide if a female refuses to mate with him. By killing the infant, the mother can re-enter estrus and will allow mating. Despite using infanticide, gorillas have never been observed to utilize rape. The only primates that are known to use both of these horrible strategies are humans and the Hamadryas baboon. Guerrilla conflicts have multiple types. The classic chest-beating display is used mainly for the silverback's group mates when they step out of line. It is common for a male gorilla to beat his chest to interrupt conflicts between his associated females and offspring. Smaller gorillas seem to do this more often, perhaps because they have to assert their authority more frequently due to being less intimidating. The chest-beating display is also the preferred method of dealing with animals of other species, such as humans or leopards, and in this case the females may also display. However, when silverbacks are confronted by other male gorillas, they often jump straight to the fight and do not display at all, something highly unusual for primates. Relative to adult body mass, gorillas have the smallest brains of any primate. However, in absolute terms, theirs is the second largest brain of extant primates, just a smidge ahead of the orangutan. This is consistent with their birth rate rule that I have mentioned in prior videos. The 4-pound baby gorilla, once grown, has a final brain size just under half the size of a man's brain. Analysis of the frontal cortex in great apes found that gorillas are the outlier among them, at least structurally. They have the least developed overall frontal cortex relative to the other apes, especially the dorsal region. The striatum, a centrally located portion of the brain that has been implicated in movement, control of movement, and the seemingly unrelated reward response, is different from in humans and apes. One study found that the striatum of apes was unusual in chemistry. Gorillas had a significantly lower amount of dopamine receptors in the striatum than in humans, and it composed a relatively larger portion of the brain in all studied apes. Orangutans and gibbons were not studied in this aspect, but the striatum of chimpanzees proved to be more human-like than in gorillas. These tidbits were rather interesting to me because anomalies in brain chemistry, especially within the striatum, have been implicated in executive dysfunction or disorders such as ADHD, while structural anomalies have been observed in individuals with autism. I am on the spectrum myself, and it's interesting to think about the possibility that in the gorilla we have a species that is entirely composed of an anomalous neurotype that is present in humans. If this is the case, and if so, what other primates, or animals in general, might have this trait? Gorillas are critically endangered. The cross river gorilla in particular is the second rarest great ape subspecies. Only the Tapanuli orangutan is rarer. There are 3 major threats to gorillas: poaching, disease, and habitat loss. As disgusting as it sounds, gorillas are a food source for some humans. While some may assume it is due to desperation of the hungry poor, a gorilla is not traditionally food for poor locals. In fact, most Central African cultures are forbidden to eat gorilla, either because it is revered in their indigenous religion or because primates of any species are halal to eat in Islam. Or haram, my mistake. Instead, gorilla meat typically finds its way onto the tables of rich individuals who eat it as a status symbol. Most such meat comes from the male gorilla, whose first instinct upon spotting a human is to try to be a hero and act as a shield for the females, whereupon he gets himself killed. The pet trade is also a serious issue in all apes, and young gorillas may be sold on to use for entertainment. Gorillas in zoos are seriously vulnerable to diseases such as COVID-19 and strep throat. There is worry that the pandemic in Africa, which was largely run unchecked, may infiltrate the gorilla community and will kill many of the wild individuals. Conflict over cobalt, coltan, and other mining operations alongside expansion of farming are a serious problem for gorilla conservation as well. Furthermore, the jungles of Central Africa may dry up soon due to climate change, which will severely limit the already restricted habitat of the gorilla. To help gorillas, you can donate to the Dian Fossey Gorilla Foundation. The other thing you can try to do is delay the imminent forest drying by the cheapest method of fighting climate change that is available to you, which is usually cutting down on red meat in your diet.